In this short demo, we are going to look into how CMDB is played out in ServiceNow. So let's define certain definitions before we get into ServiceNow. A configuration item is basically anything you want to manage in your IT environment. It could be a laptop or a server or a database. It has its own attributes like host name, serial number, or location. CIs can be connected to another CI. For example, an application is hosted on a server. Coming to CMDB or Configuration Management Database, it is a central repository that stores information about all its assets and the configuration items in your IT environment. CMDB is critical for ITSM because it provides visibility into the underlying infrastructure and the relationships between components. So this having a good CMDB aids you in incident or problem or change management. Okay, now let's see how the CMDB is stored in ServiceNow. How do they manage to store all this? So in ServiceNow, all CI records are stored in tables. They all extend a base table known as CMDB underscore CI, and other tables extend this base table to represent objects such as hardware, applications, and many other objects like routers and data centers and firewalls and many other things. Anyway, this having a table hierarchy ensures that all CIs share common attributes while allowing specific classes to have specialized fields. And we will see that. We will take an example of a Linux server and we'll see how that works. Now the relationships between CIs are stored in a relationship table, and we will look into that as well. Okay, so let's go down to ServiceNow and see how that works. Now this is the home page, but let me just take you to the tool itself. Give me a minute. Okay, so here I am having I would go to my navigation pane and type configuration. Okay, and this is my configuration. It has got so many modules down here. Okay, you could look into application servers, Tomcat, or go to servers, clusters. All these things are all CIs. Okay, now what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to go into the ServiceNow tables. So I'm just going to, okay, so this will give me a list of all the tables in ServiceNow, and you see there are around 6,700 tables. If I want to know those related to CMDB, I would put that filter and you would see around 1,400 tables related to CMDB. Okay, now this is your root or your topmost table, which is known as base configuration item. Okay, and then there is a configuration item. Let me just search for it, which is really a child of that base. So this is a CI, right? It is represented by CMDB underscore CI, and it extends that base class, that basic configuration item. Okay, anyway, coming back to now, let's say I want to come back and see the CMDB tables. You have it for applications or just about anything, BizTalk or APIs. They're all CIs as in ServiceNow. Now what about relationships? So if I just go and search for, I could either search for CI relationships. That would give me some tables related to CI relationships, or I could even do this. I could just search for, Okay, I can. Okay. So if you look at this, CMDB relationship CIs, filters, the CMDB relationship types, what sort of relationship? Is it a contract based relationship? Is it a SLA based relationship? User based? So there are n number of tables that aid you in representing this. Okay, now let me go back to the configuration application, and I will go to the CI class manager. Now, what does this aid? This enables us to view CIs, and it enables you to create CIs, to look into the in identification and reconciliation rules, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Let me do one thing. I'm going to click on this hierarchy button here on the left, and I'm going to search for Linux server. Okay, and you see this hierarchy that has come here. I have a configuration item, and there are 2783 such objects, and there is a table that extends that base table known as hardware, and then another class known as computer, then server, and then it comes to my Linux server. So there are 4 of them, and as soon as I click that, I would see some basic information of a Linux server. I could click on the attributes and see that it's made of 118 attributes. Most of them are derived from the hierarchy, and some have been added. Now, what are identification rules? Now, identification tells ServiceNow how to uniquely identify this CI during a discovery or data inputs. Okay, you could mention your serial number or your MAC address. So you could define different identification rules which will uniquely identify this particular CI. Either it would be a new CI, or if there's a match, then it would be an update to that existing CI. Okay. Now, when it comes to reconciliation rules, they decide which data source wins when multiple systems update the same CI instance. For example, if a discovery, there are multiple ways I could be fed information about a CI. It could be a discovery, it could be another tool that does the discovery for me. So let's say the discovery itself says that this particular Linux server has 16 GB RAM, and let's say my Microsoft SCCM says it's an 8 GB RAM. My reconciliation rule will determine which one do I go after, or which tool I want to trust or put a higher precedence to. Okay. Finally, there is a tab on health. Health is measured across multiple dimensions. It could be in terms of completeness, with regard to have all the mandatory fields being filled. It could be in terms of compliance. Does it meet my organizational standard with respect to the naming convention or any other rules I've defined? It could be also in terms of correctness. Is the data in this particular CI, is it correct? Is the IP address valid? Okay, so these are some ways I could associate a health of a CI. Okay, and they become very important when you want to report on them, or you want to see the impact of when you do an impact analysis. Okay, I'm going to click on the CI list, and I'll be presented with 4 Linux server CIs, and let me pick the first one, and that will again take me to some information of this particular CI. Something that is interesting is the related item section. It says there are upstream relationship that is built here. Okay, now there are this is an Apache Linux server, and then there is a client services, and there is a bond trading. Again, that is a service, and that is used by another service known as IT services. So I could click on this particular icon here, and that will open up a dependency view. So this becomes very important for you to see what are the other CIs that is related to this particular CI, and especially when when you are trying to troubleshoot incidents, or even think about what is the impact of a change to this particular CI. Are there other CIs that would get impacted? Okay. So here I see my Linux server, and this is my web server, again a Linux instance, and there are two services, and the bonding service is now used by another service known as IT service. Okay. So what we have done in this demo is show you how that we define what a CI is, what a CMDB is. Then we talked about how ServiceNow stores these things. We talked about a table hierarchy, with a base table and then multiple child tables which inherit attributes from the base table. And then we talked about how in ServiceNow you could narrow down to a particular CI, see the attributes, see what are the dependency on those on other CIs. We also looked into identification and reconciliation rules in terms of how do I identify a particular CI when it's discovered, or is it going to be an update of an existing CI, or is it going to be a new CI? And also we talked about reconciliation CI, where I need to, when there are multiple feeds that come into with respect to one CI, whom do I really trust more than the other one? Okay. So that was a small demo on how CMDB is implemented in ServiceNow. Okay, thank you.